We are alive. We are alive from the grave. Live from the grave. It's Adam Askew and the Grand Arbiter and a secret surprise. We're gonna be alive on the internet. Madam Askew and the Grand Arbiter. Yeah, we're gonna be alive and not dead. And not dead. It's Wendy. Wendy's in the chat. Hey, Wendy. Hey, Cindy Joy. Hey, everybody. TK. Nice to see you. It's nice to see that you are not a corpse. We are not corpses currently. Linda is not a corpse. We are alive. We are here. We are ready to party here in our live studio here in the ether webs. It is I, the Grand Arbiter. And of course,
I, Madame Askew.
And with us today is our very special guest, which was scouted, identified, worked with, seduced by Madame Askew. So please give us the full introduction.
I am so pleased, everyone, to welcome my dear friend, the absolute fierce menace, literary seductress, and poetic paragon, Linda D. Addison. Linda, how wonderful to have you here with us.
Oh, my darlings, it's such a joy to be here. I don't know where else I would want to be except on Mars, but then I'm not ready to do that, so here I am.
Yes. Well, and you know, Mars has been identified as a place to be colonized by losers. So we'll go to a different planet.
Ooh, I got a lot of people I want to send. I have a long list.
Yes.
We'll just send them. They can go. We'll stay here or find someplace else, but we're not going to go. It's fine. Linda,
nice.
Linda, it is such a delight to get to meet you. I know that Madam and you have been chatting a storm, a chittering of teeth, of joy and excitement.
For sure.
You are an award-winning poet, writer, person of ill repute and beauty.
I try as hard as I can.
I understand that you have not one, not two, but five Stokers, which is an award for the writing of horror, correct?
Yes, it is. And mine are all in poetry, by the way.
I love that so much.
I love
that.
What makes poetry a medium that you get this deep enjoyment from? You clearly have been putting the efforts and the emphasis in your work in poetry for a long time. What, as a medium for horror, do you think that poetry offers that other mediums fail to deliver on?
Well, let's pretend I actually had a choice, because I didn't. Things have been singing in my head, like songs from my earliest memory, like first grade in school. My teacher's telling my mom she'd get higher grades if she didn't, like look out the window and like daydream. How you like it now? Anyway, it just was always my first language. I loved the rhythm, the music of poetry. So, I mean, I've written other things, and I wrote my first novel finally, but it's just my comfy music in my head constantly, all the time.
I'm gonna repeat the question just a little bit differently, because I am very curious. What do you think you bring to horror poetry that's like, what makes horror poetry as strong a medium? Like, let's say I'm a layman who's never read a book in my whole life. What makes horror as poetry really exciting?
Good question. I think for me, and what's drawn people to my poetry is that it sings of the anguish and pain and frustration and everything that our souls just don't want to face. I sing in my poetry, and I think people find comfort in being able to see a reflection of their pain in my poetry. I also don't write necessarily victims, but I will write about being victimized. So I think there's an emotional connection that people find, and that's why people are drawn to horror, whether it's poetry or fiction. It's just, that scare factor, but safe, that reflection of fear.
Oh,
So it's the catharsis plays a big role, it sounds like.
I
Yes.
love that. Until I met you, Linda, I love poetry. I've read a fair bit of poetry, but I never considered that poetry had a genre component. I always sort of considered it a beast of its own, species. It's just like out here, I'm poetry and I do what I want. And so I was very fascinated about sort of centering your poetry in this genre experience, and it opened my mind up to what poetry could be, and also to just take a different perspective to my reading of poetry. So as a poet, you must read quite a bit of poetry yourself. Who's a go-to poet that you like to read?
Ooh, that's a hard one. And by the way, thank you for that compliment on the poetry. I write science fiction poetry too, and I find that it does bring people in, and they never knew there was science fiction poetry or horror poetry, and I love being able to be that entree for folks. It's hard. I mean, there's so much good poetry out. My early influences were, I'm looking at my bookcases because, oh boy, were people whose words had so much music for me, like Alice Walker. Idora Welty, which is a Southern writer, but her writing is so musical. It's so beautiful in that way. There's just a lot of different people. What I do now is I like to read as new poetry comes out, and what's influencing me, and what's sort of gives me joy seeing other people's poetry. And also I'm the poetry editor for Space and Time magazine, so I get to read a lot. But yeah, the early ones were that. Langston Hughes wrote some amazing poetry that reflected so much about society, and a couple that I would even say were like horror. So, and then the early ones, Edgar Allan Poe, which I consider his writing very poetic, and Shakespeare. I used to read Shakespeare out loud when I was like in elementary school. I didn't know what it meant. I just liked the way the words sound. So
The rhythm was everything, right? And it
totally.
is so critical to like the poetic experience. I want to come back to Langston Hughes because he's one of my favorites, but I have to share that I was like getting ready, for our time together, and I ran into like a blog post from someone who was like, well, poetry's not meant to be heard out loud. It's a visual experience. It's how it looks on the page. And I was like, look, I love E.E. Cummings, and how he puts his words on the page is very interesting, but he's also meant to be read and sounds amazing. And I cannot imagine.
That's a crazy thing to say. Just so we're clear, I am not what I would call I'm a averagely read philosopher, right? I like to say myself as I got burned out reading too much Heidegger, and now life is different for me. Everyone marvel at Linda's beautiful teapot for a moment as we take a moment to marvel at Linda's beautiful teapot. The idea that that poetry is not intended to be read is so bananas to me as concept.
It's so weird.
Bananas. That's a banana statement.
I don't understand that because it's somewhere between a song and life. I mean, it should be read out loud. And actually, when I first started reading a long time ago, I read like a lot of people who were like scared to get in front of other people. I read really fast like this and then ran off the stage. And I realized that is not how I want my poetry to be read. So I took
it needs to be dramatic.
I took a one-day class with Jack Ketchum, aka Dallas Meyer, who is no longer with us, amazing horror writer. And after that, I read like a champ, and people were like, "Oh my God, you read so well." It's like Dallas, because what he taught me, and I've taught workshops in this. The one-line version of it is, when you're reading a poem, what are you doing with the person listening? You should be seducing them into the story. You should be bringing them the angst. You should be doing it. You become somewhat of an actor. And now I love reading my work so much.
Oh. Well,
So,
I know I'm biased, but you have the most plummy, gorgeous voice. And hearing you speak to anything is such a pleasure.
aw.
But I do think that poetry is meant to be rolled around in the mouth and really savored, and savored by the ears, but also savored by the speaker. Poetry doesn't work for me unless I read it out loud.
And
I don't,
actually,
you know.
and the big part for me is like, you're missing out on what the act of reading it aloud is as a performer. Like, there's this whole component where it's like, there's reading the piece, then there's all on the page, then there's listening to it be read aloud, and then there's performing the piece aloud, which are all like different angles to approach art. A wild take, a take of maximum absurdity, foolishness, a fool. You should write I am writing a sternly worded message that is basically foolish, emptiness, void, a thought without thinking, statement without meaning, of be consumed by your own petard. My goodness.
I'm in love.
No, I
love that again.
I hate that. That is so infuriating. The more I think about it, the more angry I am, and I cannot handle it. Linda,
Yes.
we've been talking a little about your poetry. We talked about that, but I remember you said, and I believe that you stated something in your bio that you've displayed. You have a novel that just that is ready to be consumed by the masses. You hear that now, folks. There is a novel ready to be torn to bits, consumed. Like a zombie attack.
I mean, so here's the story of the novel. You know, I love to tell stories. Anyway, so I haven't done novels all these years of writing because I was terrified. I thought if I started one, I wouldn't finish one. And I love seeing myself in print, and that would be the end of life meaning for me. So anyway, I finally got over that. There's a story behind that. And I wrote a novel that I have with a wonderful agent. He is now shopping it around. It is hard sci-fi, kids. Yes, kittens. Yes, hard sci-fi. And it's and you wonder why? Because I have a BS in math, by the way. Just saying, from Carnegie Mellon. So always been obsessed with quantum mechanics. It's got a lot of that in it. So then I'm finishing a second novel now, sci-fi. And then I'm doing a third one, which I'm not sure yet because I do have an African vampire idea I want to play with. But anyway.
Ooh.
That is very exciting stuff. Is there anything that people can go out and get today?
Yeah. How to recognize a demon has become your friend. I mean, if you don't need to know that, I have no words for you.
So where can they find this lovely novel about demonic friendship?
It's actually a poem, a story kind of thing, journey. And you can find it at your, online stores.
Your local bazaar of the written word.
Yeah, and it won a Stoker. So yeah, that one's around. And coming up, but I don't know if you want to talk about that now or later.
Oh, well, we're going to talk about all the things we remember.
We'll have many things to talk about, for sure. There will. I assume that this is one of many meetings because already I can see that Madame Askew's, like, the backlog of statements, questions, and engagements is starting to fill her brain, and we're gonna have to hold back some.
I'm here for all the tea, babes.
Oh, excellent tea. So, listen, you do have an amazing opus of work. I have dropped your website link into the comments for everybody, and also a direct link to picking up, How to Recognize a Demon has become your friend. So you can all collect it, learn from it, because it's important to learn if your friend is a demon or not. Because
I mean, if you
right,
don't need to know that, okay, that's a
some,
choice.
like sometimes a demon's nice, but also can they be trusted with the crockery, right? Like,
Most likely not, but it's
no,
best to know in any
no.
case.
But I want to just pick up before we move on to other things, because I love Langston Hughes so much. And it's not often that his name gets thrown about these days. I think, even though he's such a prolific and incredible poet, that people may not have heard of him. And he's someone who his poetry just resonated deeply with me the very first time I picked it up. But you wrote a piece about his poetry.
I did. Oh my goodness. I can't believe you brought that up, because the book is sitting here on my desk. Woo! Along with a bunch of others that I was in last year. Yeah, that happened. Anyway, so in let me get to it. Okay. Oh my goodness. Cause horror. Okay. I like psychological horror. I mean, I'm not a blood and guts horror writer, and there's so many great ones out there. If that's what you want, there you go. But Jonathan Mayberry last year put together a book called Shadows in Verse.
Beautiful cover.
Oh my, no, it's fabulous. And each with classic dark poems with celebrity commentary. I guess I'm a celebrity. Oh my.
I mean, I've heard that. I can already tell that you have celebrity status with Madame Askew already.
That's all I need, folks. That's it. End of story. We're done. Anyway, so my little one was because I wanted people to understand that Langston Hughes has so much. First of all, his poetry, he made the Harlem Renaissance with his poetry. When people talk about people not knowing there's horror and science fiction, Harlem Renaissance, look up Langston Hughes poetry. And it's a very short one. Do you mind if I read it?
Please read it.
Sure, absolutely.
So it's called The Sick Room by Langston Hughes. And I'll just read, I wrote my observations in it, but it's how quiet it is in the sick room, where on the bed a silent woman lies between two lovers, life and death, and all three covered with a sheet of pain. I'm just saying, come on. The Sick Room. I mean, you can imagine when I wrote all the things I thought about it, but the fact that he took this moment and has three characters, and covered with a sheet of paint, stop it.
Beautiful. But that's Hughes, right? I mean, we could.
That is Hughes. That's what I wrote. I said, this is particularly beautifully invokes agonizing emotions of being in pain and lingering between life and death. You took the words right out of my mouth, and I'm fine with that.
No, but listen, as soon as you were like, and Langston Hughes, I'm like, and yes, you wrote that piece about his poem, and we've got to talk about it, because he's incredible.
Incredible.
And that, I know you're not actually genetically related to Langston Hughes, but there is this sort of, all right, I mean, you could surprise me with that information, but
you can surprise myself.
There is a sort of, descent, there's like linear connection from his poetry in the Harlem Renaissance and the work you do today. There is that connection. And as soon as you said that his work had that horror element, I was like, oh, yes, because it's very visceral, and he would observe the mundane in a beautiful way, but he would also plumb the depths of the horror of existence, exactly as you demonstrated with that beautiful poem. Just so stunning.
It's also true. Like what I write is like very similar in horror like that. I mean, I have very few, although I have a couple that have like real monsters in it, zombies and stuff. But, most of my poetry is about the kind of pain that life gives us that we have to process through. So, and again, I like to think that's why people like it.
Yes. I suspect that's why you have all those awards too.
Maybe. Could be.
Yeah. And well, and most horror monsters are metaphorical in nature as well, right? Like horror creatures generally are metaphorical for a real problem in the first place, right? Like
Absolutely.
like so much about horror as a genre is about the rejection of parts of human experience that like we externalize it into a literal creature, right?
Mhm.
Like I would consider like the creature of the Black Lagoon is like a very like these days it's not more traditional horror. You wouldn't some might not consider it horror in the same genre, but like that whole experience is the horror of both uh the longing of being close to others and the rejection that we are afraid of is so often can be represented in that like engagement. So like there's so many different narratives that can be told through horror. A love story, like stories of loss or of unrelenting desire, and that like the horror is the human part of it, right? It's not the monster.
Exactly.
It's the
I mean,
human
I
part
think
that we've
a lot of
out,
the,
right?
for a lot of if you look at almost any, especially the early movies, Frankenstein and the Mummy and all these kinds of things, you can spend time to dig in and understand that the real emotion behind it has to do with some level of rejection, of being wounded, of being the other. There's a lot of monsters reflecting being the other. Yeah. So I think there's always some part of the human connection to it emotionally or to fearfulness. Otherwise, I think it's hard to connect to people. I mean, when I mentor people about writing poetry in their work, I really want them to dig into the really deepest parts of their authentic selves, of their fears, of their anger, and then come through that with some metaphor, obviously, or not. I mean, I don't tell people how to write,
You
but
don't have to
that's
tell people what to do. That's not your job.
no, it is not. But my job is, if someone's working with me, is to try to get them to dig to that deep part, because where our shadows are, where our fear and anger is, that's how people are going to remember what we write. That's the connection.
I love that. Oh my goodness. Linda, I think you are inadvertently giving us a bit of a masterclass today on, scoping out your poetic potential and maybe even just in writing in general, digging deep into that emotional connection. And you are going to turn me into a horror reader.
Ooh, I
Thank you.
would read anything you wrote. Oh boy.
Thank you. It's mostly a little bit on the comedic end of things, but also, more of a rom-com experience. But
We need that too. Let me tell you, we need that too.
thank you. So, please go ahead, Grand
No,
Arbiter.
finish your thought, and then we will transition.
Right. So, but I want to make clear for everyone who is here today. Hello, everyone. It's so good to see you. Hello, my darlings. Thank you for being here and welcoming dear Linda to our virtual tea parlor. If you are enjoying this conversation with the three of us today, you should know that Linda is a regular denizen of TusCon Sci-Fi, Fantasy and Horror Convention right here in Tucson, Arizona. And that is how I had the privilege to meet Linda for the first time. And Linda, you do so many wonderful events at this convention, including you usually do like a poetry
Open
panel.
mic.
Get people doing poetry.
Yes.
I've never gotten to go. I'm always scheduled against you.
I know. It's something I do at any and every convention that I'm invited to, as a guest. I insist on it because I love hearing other people's poetry. I think it takes a certain amount of warrior for you to sit down, write something that from wherever it is, and then read it. Although I always offer to read people's work if they don't want to. And there have been occasions where I have, where maybe the poem at Gen Con last year, we had an open mic, and there was a person who just felt it was too emotional. I was like, I'll read it, because like has been said, each word is like a meal. And I love cold readings, which is when you read without practice, because then it allows me to discover this whole journey of the poem. And I just love doing that. So, and by the way, Tuscan made me poet laureate a couple years ago. So that was very cool, because I don't have that on my resume, and now I do. Thank you, Tuscan.
Now you do. Now you do. I'm so excited to see you at Tuscan. And I know we live here and we live close, but there's something magical about being in that space with so many wonderful authors and artists, and sharing these panel rooms and getting to talk about all of the things that we're passionate about. For those who have not been to Tuscan, listen, it is a little gem right here in the Southwest. And this is a great year to join us. Not only do you have Linda, our poet laureate, I shall be there, the Grand Arbiter is coming, and so is Gail Carriger. So it's going to be an absolutely wonderful time. Also,
Stacked deck. Stacked.
We also have
It's going to be stacked like Madame Askew's corset. That's how stacked it is.
Grand Arbiter, there's also an additional gift for you this year at Tuscan. You love those magic cards. You love the game of magic.
Yeah.
Liz Danforth is going to be there.
Liz Danforth is one of the best magic artists in the lexicon. Still a popular chooser for today, from the era. I respect Liz Danforth as one should.
As one should. There's also a wonderful couple who are coming to do as the musical guests, Jeff and Maya Barnhoff. So it's this incredible, wonderful adventure at Tuscan. Many wonderful artists, and I have been given a gift for all of you since Linda is here tonight. Our wonderful ConCom chair, Wendy Trakers, gave me a very special code for all of you. If you would like to come to Tuscan and you haven't bought your tickets yet, for this weekend only, there's a little coupon code which I am dropping into the comments right now. So you should use this, buy your tickets, and come join us at Tuscan. So that is our little gift from Wendy to all of you in honor of tonight's tea, and an additional enticement to come and do poetry with Linda. And we're going to try and obviously lure Linda into Cog Match if the schedule permits. So
I'm so intrigued. I don't even know what to say.
Oh,
I literally don't know what to say, because I don't know what it means, but
so
I'm in.
Imagine
If I can be, I'm in.
You would be so good at this game. It is the Grand Arbiter's brainchild. But imagine the match game from the 60s and 70s, and then take the snatch game from RuPaul's Drag Race, throw it into the blender with the two of us. It is some big queer nonsense. We have a wonderful time.
I love RuPaul too much. I can't tell you. I have a RuPaul story if we have time. If not, I'll tell you another.
Oh, we have time.
We have to get to, I'm so sorry. We're about at the 30-minute mark. We have to go to the Patreon's Corner.
All right.
But speaking of delightful ghouls that haunt neighborhoods,
Wendy, I love you. Love you, Wendy.
Wendy says the coupon is good until Monday, everyone. Yes.
So we, of course, every week, our patrons who we love, adore, and keep us in sundry items like tea and oxygen, we are delighted to bring their favorite topic to the table. Today's topic is, drum roll please, Mansions of Madness Best Haunted Vacation Spots. Madam Askew, what inspired this brainchild of a topic?
Well, I just thought we're talking to renowned award-winning horror poet and writer Linda Addison. If we were going to go on an adventure, we would have to go someplace haunted.
Well,
You know,
I guess that's what we're going to have to do. I'm going to give us the rubric, and then we will discuss some locations. Things that are part of the rubric. The place must be actually haunted. It must be haunted for us
Right.
to attend.
Okay.
Ideally, it doesn't kill all its attendees, or it will be a very poor. It would be rated pretty low if it kills everybody, right? Like, if it
All right,
kills
fair.
everybody, not gonna rate high on the
No.
on the what ye old Yelp reviews. So we probably wouldn't go to that one because it has bad Yelp reviews. Or maybe it would have no Yelp reviews because everybody's dead. Still, we're not going anywhere place that doesn't have a review. Somebody has to have a positive experience some of the time. Thirdly, it must be, I'm going to say, on Earth.
On Earth. All right.
Like,
on Earth.
we could go to the hauntings of a supernatural plane but in order to really sell people on this experience, they need to take place on or exist on Earth. Let's just say that.
Right. Okay.
And
All right.
we will be grading these and by grading, just sort of rating our thoughts on it on a levels of 1 to 5 spooks.
1 to
5
5.
spooks is a must-go location. 1 spook is don't bother. It's not going to be worth it. I am going to start because that is my curse and my burden. Our first location to discuss is, of course, an Airbnb known to many as the site of the Amityville Horror.
Oh,
So,
Amityville
Horror has been turned into a bed and breakfast via the Airbnb application. If you can get over the horror that is the gentrified neighborhood created through Airbnb, the Amityville Horror represents a place where many people have died, but only once or twice, not consistently over a long period. It does have a particularly grotesque, in a fun way, experience, but I don't know if it has the great ambiance and has some what I'd call tacky decor that they've retained from its use in the 70s and 80s. So that's my first. Let's discuss Amityville Horror Airbnb.
Ooh, I wouldn't put that on my schedule at all.
Didn't most people die? I mean, it feels like it was like a high
Only
death.
families that live there for an extended period.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
So as long as you don't try to do a work from home long stay at this location, probably fine. Like a weekend getaway to a place where many families have been murdered.
I feel like it is a weekend getaway from place. Like, you should get away. The decor is dodgy and the ambiance is lacking, I think.
I also think the smell and the presence of so many flies, which is like a reoccurring motif of this particular location, not ideal. We're talking about a combination of all the things. Whatever topic that you're talking about, you can imagine that this has it. It has all the features of both film and narrative lines.
Linda, what are your thoughts on? I mean, you already said
I don't think it's not. This is a deep cut, and I appreciate it. I respect and appreciate this deep cut. Justin, may you be blessed by several memes.
Ooh.
Well done.
So this is a reference to arguably the best season of American Horror Story, Coven, where one of the main villains, the main villain of the story, when she dies and goes to hell, part of her hell is that the house is made with knotty pine.
Oh boy. Yeah, that's not a good look.
Oh no.
And she screams the line aloud in a very funny, darling way. So yes. How many spooks we gonna give the Amityville Horror House?
Oh, I'll give him 5 because I'm not going. That's it.
Spooky enough. It rolls all the way around. You're like, nope, not going at all.
Nope. But I want other people to go. So yes, and come back.
You know what? We will schedule some visits for some key figures that may or may not be making horror stories of our own lives.
So
that will send them some invites to a maybe some kind of like maybe a stockholders meeting of some kind that takes place at the Amityville Horror House as it's a leadership retreat.
Yes. Ooh, yes, let's do that.
We'll schedule a leadership retreat at the Amityville Horror House and invite all our favorite nemesis. Madam Askew, would you like to offer a location?
Right. Well, I've been pondering locations whilst you were talking about the Amityville Horror House, and so I'm going to go with the Driscoll Hotel in downtown Austin, Texas, because it is a beautiful hotel, gorgeous appointments. It's from the late 19th, early 20th century. So that it was still like, should we go more? Yes. Excess? Yes. Crystal chandeliers? Yes. Marble hallways? Yes. Marble staircase where you can fall to your death? Absolutely.
Ooh, or sing upside down as you're dying. So you can do some upside down opera singing as you die on the staircase.
Absolutely. A wonderful Don Giovanni moment. Just die on the staircase. And it's haunted, but it also happens to be right there, downtown Austin, right by the main drag where all of the bars are for bands and live music and things. So like, it's a nice location. The rooms do tend to have cold spots, but it doesn't have a fly problem like the Amityville Horror House. So that's nice, but it's also maybe the location is not that nice anymore. So, but there are no flies. It's not, covered in flies. So that's the bonus, and it's
the bare minimum.
Yeah.
I think that probably, like, I'm curious about what the room service is like, to be honest. That's a very important feature to my desire to go to a spooky location. How good is the food there? If the food is really bad, I'm not sure. The horror might be the bathroom trip that I have to do later, and I don't love that.
But I've never done the room service at the Driscoll. I have had brunch there. I survived the ordeal of brunch, I must admit.
How was the brunch? Was it gay brunch or was it straight brunch? And you know what I mean. Was it gay brunch?
It was not.
Or was it straight brunch?
It was not gay brunch.
Was it straight brunch? Okay.
There was no mimosa. All right. There were not.
That is not a brunch. A brunch without mimosa is an emptiness.
No,
I cannot go someplace without mimosa. That is just a sign of, like, no.
Yeah, no mimosas. Oh no, there are flies.
Ew.
Yes. So I feel like this gets 3 spooks, but it's only spooky because the brunch is so terrible. Is the lesson.
Listen, you can get Texas state shaped waffles. I remember
A
that.
nightmare beyond reckoning.
Okay, yeah.
That spook meter is like
Scary.
teetering on a 4 now. You're telling me we gotta go there and we're gonna get waffles shaped like a place of hardship? I
I
think
was
not.
going to say, you're not saying all the words, but I like the way you said it.
Perhaps not a demonic level of flies.
Mm.
You know, I like my flies to only be a minor poltergeist level of flies rather than a full-blown demonic incursion.
No,
Um,
I don't want Beelzebub, Lord of Flies, to come to brunch. He's
Linda, my love and darling, how many spooks are you going to give this hotel?
I'm gonna go with 3.5.
Yeah, that brunch sounds scary. That brunch sounds scary.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll be needing a lot of mimosas to eat those waffles.
Linda, you are up. What is a horror location that you are going to recommend to us?
It's hard to choose between two. So you tell me, should I choose one that
Just choose one, and then you can save the other one for the next round if we have time for another round.
Okay. I'm gonna go with the Copper Queen Hotel in Bisbee, Arizona, because I was there and I had experiences.
Ooh, were they good experiences or were they bad experiences?
They were haunted experiences. Like I didn't have things come out of me that I'd want at the time. But I'm just saying, I meant like I didn't pee myself. But what I mean is, I didn't mean to say it that way.
Well,
Sorry.
given the amount of tea we're drinking, that's inevitable at a certain juncture.
But I mean, I went there with my favorite cousins and my Aunt Henrietta in the whole wide world here. And we went, and Bisbee's like this cute little town, looks like it should be in a snow globe. And then we went there, and food-wise, I gotta say, the kitchen with the little restaurant there with lace curtains and the tablecloth, that was good. The food was cute.
Well, and Bisbee is actually got a fairly effective restaurant scene. There's several very cute restaurants in Bisbee.
Yes, and the one in the Copper Queen Hotel was very nice. I mean, my aunt enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. The tea, the food, it was good. And then we took a tour. Okay. There was coldness in places. I felt there were shadows moving before I went into rooms. Yeah, that was real talk. That was real talk. I liked it.
Well, I actually think that the nature of the experiences is, it's nice that it only happened while you are on the tour and not while you were in the room.
Right,
in some regards.
Well,
it's hard to sleep if it's too cold.
You didn't
right?
stay. Oh, yeah.
I didn't sleep overnight there.
Ooh, we'll have to test that out. I think that gets 2 spooks for me. 2 spooks, totally doable, very reasonable. Sounds like the brunch is fine.
Yes.
Yeah. Cute restaurants, nice lace
Pretty
curtains.
sure you can get mimosas. I'm just saying.
Oh, see, look, mimosas really elevates that level with the experience. I think a good mimosa will help you survive a haunting.
I think that's true.
For sure.
Okay, we're gonna go into round 2, and this is probably gonna be the final round.
All right,
Okay.
Grand Arbiter.
I am picking a new location. It is well attended during the right time of year. You want to go in the right time of year for this particular hotel. If you go in the wrong time of year, you will have a bad time. Of course, the hotel I'm speaking of has great amenities and interesting guests, and the staff are willing to accommodate almost any request. I'm, of course, speaking of the Overlook Hotel in Colorado.
I've been there. Yes. Yes.
Now, it's really key that you go, if you're going to go in the cold season where you'll be stuck there for a long time, it's really important you go with a lot of entertainment that doesn't run on electricity. Ideally, no one with a drinking problem. or any real substance problem. And you probably want to go with some folks that you really don't need to do any mental or emotional catharsis with. Real like strong crowd. You need a psychically robust group to go at that time of year. Do not go in the off season is my recommendation. But if you must go in the off season, go with a psychically robust group with at least one person who has a cheery attitude and is unwilling to bend.
I was there with a bunch of horror writers kids. Best time ever.
But it wasn't the off season. You didn't get stuck in the snow, so you're okay.
No. Mm-mm. No, sir. No, sirree. No, sirree. Yes.
No, I feel like once you've been...
everything about the hotel is high class. It's high class food, known for high class dining, known for many celebrities and famous people attend that hotel and have a grand old time of it. Just don't go on the off season or you'll stay there for a really long time. Yeah. And if you're going to go on the off season, psychically robust crowd.
But I do feel like once
you want a psychically robust crowd, maybe bring a therapist if somebody's a little on the iffy side.
Or bring a horror writer and they'll make stories about your freak out.
Yeah.
Perfect. Also, I love this. We've got a whole band happening now. This is wonderful.
I like that I come up with catchphrases that are mildly amusing.
So good.
How many spooks are we going to give the Overlook Hotel?
Ooh.
Oh, you haven't given your opinion. Go ahead, madam.
Yes, thank you. I keep trying, and then you're like, I'm gonna go. I have another bit. I'm gonna vibe.
In the entry room, when you enter that big entry with the stairs,
So I feel like once you've been with a cadre of horror writers, that you set the bar extremely high for this experience. How could it ever be more perfect, more delightful, more charming? And they have a good brunch. I definitely give it the top tier one spook. I would go like the history.
Here's the one problem I think that you might run into is that I suspect anyone who goes there who has the capacity might be visited by Aunt Flo while they're there.
Oh.
By who?
By Aunt Flo.
Oh.
Given the visual components of some of the attractions, that might be something that you might want to keep in mind. Just to keep in mind.
Thank you, Grand Arbiter. I will keep Aunt Flo in mind.
Yes, we will all keep Aunt Flo in mind.
As always, we travel with all of the required items.
Here's Aunt Flo. Yes, I think a surfboard down that winding staircase in the big entry would be awesome.
That is delightful. And also very vivid. I can just imagine surfing through the halls filled with blood. A good time had by all.
Ooh, surfing the blood.
A great time had by all. Okay, good so times. One spook from Madam Linda. You've already been, so you know it's one spook.
So is one the best thing to get? Not fun.
One, we come to the conclusion that no matter how scary it is, we want to be there. 5 being too scary, very bad time, probably will die.
Oh, been there. 1.
Yeah,
loved it.
You determined that when you determined that the Amityville one was a 5, and I was like, okay, that is the metric. You defined the metric, Linda.
I've been known to do worse.
Find a metric, girl. You can define anything you want.
Thank you.
Madam Askew, do you have a second location?
Well, I was also going to go to Colorado, but then you went to Colorado, and so we're going to pop out of Colorado and go to the great state of Oklahoma.
Great, the great with quotes around it.
To
Asterisks
Tulsa.
and quotes abound.
To
That
Tulsa.
great is doing some very heavy lifting with many punctuation. Great. Asterisk.
Just
Read footnote.
Rodgers and Hammerstein, they wrote a whole musical about it.
That's the true horror, having to sit through Oklahoma the musical.
Woo!
Don't make me talk about my Surrey with the fringe on top. So, in Tulsa, there is this beautiful Art Deco hotel that has been recently restored in the last 5-6 years. It's the Mayo Hotel. It's gorgeous. It's Art Deco. And you are very close to having your soul trapped in the antique mirrored walls of the elevators. So taking the elevator is an adventure. That marble staircase, again, a gorgeous, huge staircase to lead you in, a perfect place to fall to your death. The rooms are very cozy, and the brunch was excellent. I stayed overnight there for 3 nights, and whilst my feet were periodically cold, where a ghost was clearly walking through my legs, I still managed to live through the experience. I just stayed inside. I just stayed there. I just stayed inside the Mayo. Gorgeous views from the roof. Excellent cocktails at night. Again, cold feet, though. A lot of cold feet moments. And also,
would you host
elevators.
a sewing conference there?
I taught at a sewing conference there.
Yes. Would you host one again?
Yes, I would go. I would teach there. Everyone survived the experience, as far as I know. The projects were haunted, but that makes them more fun, right? Like to walk out.
Well, and it can really bring the life to your garment, right?
Yes.
Bring life and death to every garment.
That's how it feels anyway when you're making it. So you might as well have it be possessed.
I feel like that sounds like a pleasant enough time. If it was in any other state, I would get a 1. But unfortunately, it's in Oklahoma, so it gets a 4.
Oh man.
There is no universe in which I go to Oklahoma for any kind of pleasure. There is nothing beautiful in Oklahoma that I desire that strongly. You would have to tell me there is a Magic the Gathering convention in which I would be the guest of honor and would be popular among all the people. Like at this point, we're like in magical Christmas land of what it would take to get me to Oklahoma. You could get me there. It would take, you'd have to tell me Chris Evans is waiting there to betroth his heart to me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that would get me too. Okay.
Yeah. Like,
now you're talking.
there has to be some serious caveats on getting me to Oklahoma. So it gets a 4. I know I won't die, so it doesn't get a 5, but it does get a 4 because someone might try.
Holy moly.
You know, it's not that far from Greenwood, and which is such a beautiful district, and
A beautiful flat district.
Been there.
A flat, endless expanse. This is how you know Oklahoma is a place of horror. It has an existential terror in its geography, in that the sky goes on forever. The horizon never truly ends.
The never-ending horror. Woo, you write that, Tracy, you and me. Woo, Chris.
We're going to converge on Chris Evans, invite him to the seance at the Mayo Hotel.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's fine. We've got time for one more. Linda, you have one more space for us to hang out in to discuss at hand.
I'm gonna tell you because the place I went and slept overnight in.
Oh.
Thanks to Miss Sephra Garan.
Ooh.
Miss Sephra. And it is the Lizzie Borden house in
Ooh.
River, Massachusetts.
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 There's more S's than are necessary for that word. There are too many S's.
You
There's
know
too
what?
many T's.
I take it personal if I have to even try to say that. I'm like, why are you coming after me with that word? Anyway, let's just say,
You could write an entire horror poem about having to say the word Massachusetts.
you right about that. So anyway, I stayed overnight with, again, horror writers. Imagine that, my peoples. Imagine. We stayed overnight. We got a great tour. I got to sleep in this little room with this little single bed with lace and stuff, wallpaper with flowers. Y'all should go to the site and take the virtual tour. It is hysterical because it looks just like that. And and the basement is like, I wouldn't go in the basement by myself. It's dark. It's kind of feels like it should be dusty. I mean, there's lights, but the light from the lights is sucked up by the darkness. You know what I'm saying here?
Oh, yes, I do. Oh, no.
Yeah. And there was like coldness. There was like weirdness in the rooms, especially, that room, room where the parents were chopped up. Yeah. And there was a lot of weird energy. There was a seance. I don't know what and who thought that was a good idea.
That's a bad idea. You should not do a seance in
It wasn't my idea, okay? I don't even remember it. I think it blanked out of my mind. But I highly suggest it and definitely sleep overnight there. And the brunch was fine. I can't remember if there were mimosas, though.
A really important question, but one that can be rectified by telling them to make us mimosas.
I suspect they would make it if we asked. But yes, Lizzie Borden house.
I think that sounds like a one spooker to me. Maybe two, because Massachusetts is a hard word to say. So it gets two.
Just say MA and make it a one. I'm going to give it a one. But, Oh, that's right.
You do what you want to do, Linda. We respect Stokers in this house. And you got 5 of them.
Just call it MA. That's all. Fall River Ma.
I think as long as we're not in the winter season, when we're going to MA to stay in the Lizzie Borden house.
Yes.
And I can also get fish-based dishes as part of the brunch experience. I'm going to give it a 1. So 1 spook for the mimosas, potentially the lobster, eggs Benedict, and summer or spring in MA. That would be nice.
Yes.
Well, it is reaching that time. We are reaching that time. It is the end. But as Linda, as you have mentioned in many of your poems, death is the beginning, but also necessary. And so this is the death of this episode, but you can catch us next week with a whole new bag of characters. Linda, we will see you at TusCon at minimum. We don't invite you back before then.
So exciting. And everyone, do remember, go to TusCon's website, get those tickets, and use your little code that is only functional until
Montauk.
Monday.
Keep an eye out for Linda's new books as they manifest themselves onto this plane. And be sure to get her How to Recognize a Demon Has Become Your Friend.
Yes.
From Digital Establishment.
Earth Day. Don't forget Everything Endless. Me and Jamal Hodge taking y'all on a cosmic tour. Let's go.
Ooh, so exciting. Linda, this has been an absolute delight. Thank you so much for joining us. Everyone, go out, buy a book, read some poetry out loud, and if Linda and I have not convinced you to check out Langston Hughes, I don't know what to do. But he's a great one.
Horror was always inside us. So, as I say regularly, kill the shame inside you, become a murderer of your own shame, and wield it as a weapon towards your enemies.
Murderer of your own shame. Oh, Lordy. I love that.
Yeah, no, I'm great. Everyone remember, we are here for you. We know it's a bad, hard time in lots of ways, in a numerous of ways. But like all final girls, we will survive till the end, and we will look so flippin' hot doing it. So remember to stay hot and to survive, and know that we're cute as heck, and we're happy to see you, and we're excited to see you. Next up is, of course, Wild WestCon. Be sure to get your tickets, and you can join Mad Askew and myself on our panel on horror, the Queerdo Weirdos Survival Guide to Horror for minorities for all shapes and sizes.
That's true. That's true. We are going to talk about how to be the final girl of your own horror story when you are part of a marginalized community who's normally murdered during that experience. So it'll be a wonderful time. Yeah.
Mad Askew, I think we'll pull a Langston Hughes collection that we'll post onto the Discord later on.
Because I can't come up with anything so fast right now.
It's okay. We're gonna work it out, but we will see you soon. Linda, please say goodbye to our lovely audience.
Love you all. Let's see you soon. Come to TestCon and we'll have some fun.
Mad Askew, your standard greetings and salutations and goodbye.
Yes, my darlings, thank you so much for being here tonight. Please remember to treasure yourselves as we treasure you. Go out into the world, take very good care of yourselves, wash your hands, get those boosters and vaccines, wear a mask if you need to, drink some good tea, eat your vitamins and minerals, take very good care, because if you do not, I have to haunt you like an enraged cat.
And that's at least 3 spooks. That's going to make your house very hard to sell on the market. So moving forward, this is a goodbye. It's see you later. Good night.
Good night, everyone. Cheers.